friend Sally from Vern. Oh, there she is, right in the front. Okay, Sally, here you go. Read that question.
These are their own questions that they wrote down that Jerry can then pre-screen and read back to me.
I think everyone is aware that their vote is needed to re-elect Scott Walker. What about Rebecca Clayfish? We haven't heard much about her recall. Do you think that more time should be spent bringing the attention to her?
Yes and no. One of the reasons I haven't given her more attention is because people vote a straight line ticket. You're not going to be able to do that, by the way, on Tuesday. You have to physically connect both arrows, one for Walker, one for Clayfish. Normally you can just vote straight party. But the reason I haven't is I figure that if most Republicans turn out, if most people turn out to vote in favor of Walker, they'll turn out and vote in favor of Rebecca Clayfish. I have a hard time believing that we're going to have a Scott Walker, Mahlon Mitchell result on Tuesday. I just don't think it's going to happen. So that's one of the reasons I haven't dedicated more time to it. But it is important to pay attention to that race as well and realize there are real distinctions there. Rebecca Clayfish, from the very minute she got into office, has been trying to make something of that office. The lieutenant governor's position has always been just sort of a throwaway, do-nothing position. She immediately decided, I'm going to try to generate business for Wisconsin. I'm going to try to help out Scott Walker any way I can. And she really has, and she's worked hard at it. She could easily just be collecting a state paycheck and floating along. And she has managed to bring Fat Wallet and several other businesses to Wisconsin as a result of her efforts. So she has, in a very positive way, contributed to Wisconsin already. Whereas Mahlon Mitchell, his big contribution was to put out hit lists on businesses that didn't agree with the union tactics. So it's an important race. Everybody's got to vote Clayfish too. But my thought is they're going to fall in line Walker-Clayfish. It's very unlikely that we'll have a split decision.
Words of wisdom. Tina. Where's Tina? Yeah, right there. Look at that, right in front. She's got her glasses, don't you?
I need mine too. I couldn't see you if I took these off.
Yeah, when you get past 30, you know what I mean? Morning, Jay. After reviewing the latest polls showing favorable numbers for Walker, how would you factor in the cheating which invariably will take place?
It's almost impossible to tell. I know, and Jerry knows, that you can talk to longtime Republicans who for decades have said Republicans always have to win by a half a percentage point to 1 percentage point more, you know, than the true and accurate totals, because we've always sort of built in that hedge, that fudge for cheating. So if it's 1 percentage point, and we're expecting that the 2 million plus turnout, you're talking about 20,000 stolen votes, if it would be 1 percentage point. That I could believe. When you start getting into 3 or 4 percentage points, that I can't. So this is important in a very close race. I think close races in Wisconsin have been stolen by those that resulted in maybe a couple of thousand vote difference. But any more than 20,000 votes, I would find hard to believe that that sort of cheating is going on. I would hope that sort of cheating isn't going on. But the fact that you have Reince Priebus saying on national television last night that he thinks that type of cheating is going on really says something. We just don't know. It's impossible to track.
Would you care to identify the geographic locations in Wisconsin where that cheating might
I think we all know. They're the cities where you can't find a van to rent.
Let's see here. Let's try Ed from West Bend. Ed, where is Ed? Ed, right there on the edge. Good. Hang on here. Go ahead.
Good morning, Jay.
He's taking the microphone. He's taking control. Go ahead.
When Governor Walker wins re-election on June 5th, what can he and our leaders do about Milwaukee dumping poo in our greatest natural resource, that is Lake Michigan?
That's a very good question. That is a question that really hasn't been tackled at the state level at all. It just is, for years there's been this unholy alliance between local and state officials that we're just going to wink, wink, nod, nod, look the other way because it is such a difficult problem. It would cost, probably it cost $1 billion to build the deep tunnel back in the 80s. It would probably cost $2 or $3 million or $1 billion to build the whatever could potentially fix the problem now. But that's a very good question. It would be nice to see real movement that way rather than just constantly complaining about it, constantly seeing the water foul that way, especially when, if there are any business owners or managers in the audience, especially when if you spill a half a pint of turpentine somewhere that you shouldn't, and you're going to have the DNR and everybody else on your back. So I don't have an easy answer to that. In fact, I haven't even heard any state lawmakers address that as an urgent and necessary fix that we should be focusing on. It's a good point.
It's almost as if it's accepted now.
Yeah,
that
it is.
stuff flows into the lake.
It's become acceptable.
Who in the audience would think it's a great idea to go swimming in Lake Michigan? Right about now? Anybody? Not one hand.
No, and see that's the shame of it all.
Well,
is that you have these short summers as it is. You have some great summer weather, and then you can't even go on the lake when you're down at the beach.
You put a hazmat suit on, I think you'd be fine.
Yeah.
Russ from Rochester, show yourself, please. Right there on the end. There we go. I'm going to hold the microphone for you because you've injured yourself somehow.
Hi, Jay. Are you surprised at how, for a lack of a better word, crummy a campaign that Tom Barrett has run so far?
Yeah. He is getting bad advice. He really believed, and this is the thing that Romney can't do. It can't just be a referendum in fall. It can't just be a referendum on Obama. Tom Barrett has been told this is a referendum on Scott Walker. It's all about Scott Walker. Beat up Scott Walker. Beat up Scott Walker. He cannot say one thing that he would do differently or do better. He can't say how he would have balanced the budget and erased the $3.6 billion deficit. He can't name a school that's been adversely affected by Act 10. He can't name a thing that he would do to create jobs or a piece of legislation. He couldn't name one for the Weekly Standard. He couldn't give them one piece of legislation or one idea that he would push in fall to help create jobs in Wisconsin. It's just all beating up on Scott Walker. And I think people are realizing that. You've got to give people, he gave us no vision as to what Wisconsin under Tom Barrett would be or could be, and that's ultimately going to hurt him. It's going to be the reason that he loses on Tuesday.
Left here, Al from Shorewood. Al, where are you? Right? Oh, there you are.
Birthday boy
Birthday
again.
boy. That's the second one, Al. Let me hold the mic for you.
What happened to Doyle? We haven't seen him around.
Anyone? Anyone? Your guess is as good as mine. Anyone? I still think we are going to, I know this is just me, but this is just maybe nasty. I still think we are going to hear in a year or two that he has quietly been living in Arizona or in some other state, and that he jacked up our taxes and ruined our budget and screwed Wisconsin and then moved somewhere else. I'm still just waiting for that. I believe that he, in truth, I think that he is working at some law firm, some firm or another in Madison.
He's a think tank guy.
Yeah.
Eventually, that's where we'll end up. I'll give you another one. What happened to Scott McCallum?
Boy, again, send out the search parties. I have no idea.
And the cost just to move the utilities, people out of the area might think that it's okay to have a streetcar, but they would think twice if it was only 2 blocks long.
Well, it's 2 miles long. It's not 2 blocks long, but still, you can walk 2 miles in under half an hour if you're in any sort of shape. I don't know if I could, but yeah, it's 2 miles long. But the expenses of moving those utilities really make it a terribly expensive project. It's just a useless project. It runs from nowhere to nowhere. It really does. It runs from outside the intermodal station. I don't know who they think is going to be hopping off of a train and wanting to go to Zaffiro's for pizza on the east side, because that's about the only route. That's the only thing the route's going to take. It'll take you near Zaffiro's. It won't even drop you off at Zaffiro's front door. So it's a pretty useless route. But as to the question, I think that if they held a referendum today in the city of Milwaukee, it would fail. Most Milwaukeeans don't want to pay for it. They realize it's useless. And Alderman Bob Donovan just today sent me an email saying that he's going to start circulating petitions for people to sign. Let's have a referendum on the streetcar. So if you live in the city of Milwaukee or you're otherwise interested, you could sign one of those referendums as they come around.
Outstate, do you think that trolley thing's a huge liability politically for Barrett? In other words,
So most people know what's going on.
Well, that's just should the Walker campaign make a bigger deal about $100 million being kind of wasted in Milwaukee, when the rest of the state's finances are in some trouble?
It could be another good hit point, but I don't think that most people would be terribly concerned with it. I think that the alleged fudging of the crime statistics is probably a better issue. That speaks right to the honesty of the mayor. Have they been fudging these numbers all along, and have they known it's been going on all along?
Sue from West Dallas. Sue, there she is. Hang on a second here. Excuse me, pardon me, ma'am. Excuse me. Don't sue me.
Could you explain more about the GAB? Are they appointed by the governor? How long are their terms, and when are the positions open for reappointment?
Oh boy, you would give me this last question. Let's just wrap up the show, shall we? The governors do appoint them. They have staggered periods of time that they serve, Yeah, and I forget what the rest of the question was.
How long are the terms? 6 years.
How long are the terms? Are 6 years, I believe. Yeah. And so you have a bunch of Doyle appointees now that are going to be around for a while, and whether or not Scott Walker gets to appoint him will be determined on how long he stays in office. But they have been, GAB aside, whether it was the Government Accountability Board or whether it was the State Elections Board, its earlier incarnation, it has always been dominated by liberals and biased in the liberal manner. As long as I've been watching Wisconsin politics, and I've been reporting on it and watching it for 20-some years now, there's always been that liberal bent. So you just have to do the best you can when you're a Republican. Well, thank you so much, all of you in the audience, for taking time out of your day to come and join me.